this is a very mature GUI, Neovim. I showed this to some people here yesterday, but I'll show it again. This embeds Neovim using that message pack channel, and this is a reflection. This is the screen state that it's getting over the RPC API. This is not running in a terminal. This is not a terminal. This is a canvas element in an electron process that is drawn using the electron API. And it's just drawing screen state that it requested from the Neovim process. And then in the same electron process, it has these other widgets that can work with the editor. So here it's showing you, like, you can have hover elements. These are HTML hover elements shown over the Neovim screen. There's a browser. Sure, why not? Vimr is another one that I'm very excited about. It was a popular Mac Vim alternative, and he's now re-implementing it on Neovim. If you go to their releases here and you have a recent version of macOS, then you can try it out. And Neovim Qt is probably what we're going to ship on Windows, and we're just probably going to ship it as our official GUI once we can polish it and package it. Solid Oak is a Rust IDE that was implemented with Neovim. This is written in Rust. It's communicating over a message pack RPC channel using the Rust message pack library. And the reason that these keep popping up is because message pack RPC is a structured, standardized RPC protocol. The problem that with the Vim 8 JSON, there's no API in Vim 8, at least not yet. But also, you can communicate using sending JSON messages to and from Vim 8, but there's no good protocol. I mean, there is JSON RPC, but it's underspecified. There aren't mature libraries for it on every platform, and it'll be interesting to see how many GUIs pop up for it. But I think that the proliferation of GUIs here suggests that message pack was a good choice for an RPC protocol. And as an aside, you can send JSON messages over a raw channel to Neovim if you really wanted to. But to use the API with the least amount of friction and hassle, you would send a message back. And again, Bram wants embedding too, and he wants better GUIs. So that's just mentioned for people who wonder if this is really needed. Terminal. So some people wonder, like, what's the point of terminal? I've become convinced that terminals in the year 2016 they should be a standard component. Now, they're like a primitive now. And even in like POSIX, you have PTY, which itself is sort of a primitive. It's a primitive that the operating system gives you. So people think that terminals are like some huge, complicated component, and if your application includes a terminal emulator, then it's bloated. But that misconception comes from the fact that people have fought. This is my speculation. People fight with terminals. They're hard to configure, so they probably think that they're just really complicated. Well, the user interface is complicated. Like, configuration of a terminal is complicated, and there's no standard which makes which complicates the ecosystem. But a terminal itself only requires about 6,000 lines of code. If you download Suckless's ST terminal, it's 4,000 lines of code. Okay, and libvterm, which is the terminal that Neovim ships with, is again, it's under 5,000 lines of code. And there are entire functions in Vim that are a comparable length of code. So it's hard to say that a terminal is too much bloat, I think. And the benefits of a terminal are that it means that you can wrap applications that were never even intended to be componentized, because since the only thing they do is respond to input and output, you can integrate with them just by sending key presses. So key bindings are like a really primitive but also a really elegant sort of layer of integration layer. And since every application that runs in a terminal can do nothing except for respond to input, it's like an accidental, there's this accidental extensibility that falls out of it. And that could see applications that maybe aren't obvious now, but you could start to see some really interesting applications. Like, for example, I was able to wrap the Lynx terminal web browser with a few commands, and I can control it in normal mode in Vim just by having a few key bindings. I'm going to try and wrap it up. There's just to go over features. Anyone who isn't familiar with let me also briefly mention that if you download Vim, you can get an overview of all our features by just doing help and Vim features. But I'll mention a few of the notable ones here. Shada is a replacement for Vim info. It's extensible. It's in message pack, which means that it's structured. You don't have to figure out how to parse it. Someone wrote a plugin to parse Vim info, and they asked on Twitter how can they do this for Neovim, and I said you don't have to parse it, because you just read it in as message pack. We have built-in message pack support. You can parse a message pack dump like that using the built-in message pack thing, and that gives you a VimL dictionary that you can just walk through. So it's structured, and it's extensible, so we can keep adding more and more state in the Shada format. This is my favorite feature because it's something I fixed and it really bugged me, but it's also kind of small. But meta keys work correctly in everywhere, in every terminal in Neovim. And there's a fun quote here from Bill Joy. And he might be happy to know that an entire namespace of key maps opened up because now you can use the meta key. Built-in bracketed paste. XTG support, if you care about that, then you'll like it a lot. If you don't care about it, then it doesn't affect you at all, because Neovim, we can't use the same path as Vim for our config file, so it had to be something different anyways. So that means there's no reason not to just follow the XTG directory layout format. That makes a lot of people happy. We also now ship with a check health command. This is like brew doctor. It checks the state of your system, gives you feedback, and we're going to keep improving that so that common problems that users run into can be fixed by the system inspecting the environment and inspecting the configuration. There's a really cool new event called Text Yank Post. Anytime you do a yank and through a delete, if you do it here, if you do it here as an X command. Oops. Or if you do it using normal mode commands. Any delete, yank, anytime a register is overwritten, it will fire this event. And what that means now is that it's trivial to implement the yank ring from Emacs, if you're into that. And we also introduced this standard V variable, V event, so that there's now this, it's a dictionary that will hold all of the relevant data for any event. This is sort of like in JavaScript where you have that event, magic event object that appears whenever you listen to an event. You can get the information about that event. This is something that seems like kind of obvious now. But up until now, whenever you have an auto command, you would have to check things like register or the count or something like that. Okay, I'm wrapping it up. So I want to address also like some misconceptions. Well, there's like a funny misconception, which is when people install NVim, they think it's like a lot faster, or at least they feel like it is, but I don't see why that would be, because we didn't really do any performance improvements. Vim 8 has some NVim features, it doesn't have all. And I already addressed the IDE thing. As a thought experiment, and as like a driving goal of NVim, I think it's interesting to think, like, what can we do to remove all the technical reasons for Vim not being able to adopt the Neovim source tree? A lot of people ask the question, like, is Neovim still relevant anymore now that Vim 8 has job control? I don't know. I mean, I think it is. I think that a lot of people appreciate the refactorings that we've done. But the interesting question to me is, why wouldn't Vim adopt the Neovim source tree instead of like saying, like, does Neovim still need to exist? Well, does Vim still need to exist? And if there are technical reasons for Neovim, or for Vim to still exist, what are those? And would it make more sense to address those in the Neovim source tree instead of like, just throwing away Neovim? Because it's probably, I haven't emphasized this enough, an eye-watering amount of refactoring has been done in Neovim. It's staggering. Like, man-years of effort have been put into it. And this is stuff that eventually probably will happen in Vim in the next 20 years. Why not? It's already been done, so why wouldn't you take that? If we can make it rock solid, stable, bug-free, why wouldn't you take that? And the built-in GUIs, to me, are not something worth preserving, and I would say that's the major thing that is still in the Vim source tree that obviously can't be restored in the Neovim source tree. Neovim Qt, the Neovim Qt GUI works better than gvim as far as like performance goes, and it has less flicker. There's like still a bug with clipboard, but once that's fixed, there's not really any reason for gvim to exist anymore. Neovim Qt doesn't even depend on GTK. You don't need GTK to run Neovim Qt on Linux, which a lot of people consider a feature. A lot of people don't want to install GTK, if they're running KDE or if they're running i3WM, something like that. And yeah, I think that's all I have.
Well, there's a ton. You must write a book about it. So, yeah.
Questions?
Yeah, definitely. There's quite a few things. So I'm not into JSON and the message thing either. So, I mean, I would love to have an intro and examples and things and how you use them, and maybe some of the visual things that you can see that makes Vim different from Neovim. I thought you were going into that, but there's a lot of things, not just theoretical, more like philosophy about the whole thing, which is interesting, and you need to expand on that. And I would love to see you writing all this up, not just as
Yeah.
thing points. You need to put this into a text for people to see, because people. Well, when they hear about, oh, there's a Neovim, so why the whole thing? So there needs to be the web page.
I will use this link to everyone who is interested in Neovim, because
you need to write.
it's hard to explain.
I have a work in progress I haven't been meaning to finish for like months, but yeah, I do need to get that out the door. So yeah, I will do that. And the reason that I didn't show examples is because I don't have a good reason, but there's lots of videos out there of people doing things. I can show some of those maybe, but we want to get to lunch too.
Well, I'd rather be back on time. I'd rather have lunch now and be back on time and start whatever you want to show. I just want to make sure that people who are showing up for Bram's talk, won't be standing in front of this when it's closed. And we're just, we're not far away, but still, I'd rather be back on time and then see some of the things, and then I expect Bram to come in and other people too. And we may as well have to remove our stuff and remove even the tables to make room for people. So if really like 40 people or 42 are showing up, then we need some more space in here. And I was expecting we had much more chairs, but we don't. So I expect people to be standing here a lot. Anyways, as you are here already and you have probably registered, you are entitled to a chair. Or rather, it's like first come, first